Anyway, yeah, I'm the only multi-billionaire generational fucking oligarch that spends 8 to 10 hours every fucking day online getting yelled at by literally the most mentally ill cyber stalkers that have ever existed on the fucking planet.
Even the United States.
It's just sad because like so much of it is just like pure mental illness and they don't recognize it. I don't know what to do. It's like, bro, snap out of it, please. Fucking snap out of it. You're not sane.
Allies are now downsizing their dollar reserves. Seeing this, everyone starts looking for ways to protect themselves. But the fact that the United States applies restrictive measures to certain countries, such as placing restrictions on transactions, freezing assets, etc., causes grave concern and sends a signal to the whole world. What did we have here? Until 2022, about 80% of Russian foreign trade transactions were made in US dollars and euros. US dollars accounted for approximately 50% of our transactions with third countries, while currently it is down to 13%. It wasn't us who banned the use of the US dollar. We had no such intention. It was decision of the United States to restrict our transactions in US dollars. I think it is complete foolishness from the point of view of the interests of the United States itself and its taxpayers, as it damages the US economy, undermines the power of the United States across the world. By the way, our transactions in yuan accounted for about 3%. Today, 34% of our transactions are made in rubles, and about as much, a little over 34% in yuan. Why did the United States do this? My only guess is self-conceit. They probably thought it would lead to full collapse, but nothing collapsed. Moreover, other countries, including oil producers, are thinking of and already accepting payments for oil in yuan. Do you even realize what is going on or not? Does anyone in the United States realize this? What are you doing? You are cutting yourself off. All experts say this. Ask any intelligent and thinking person in the United States what the dollar means for the US.
But
You're killing it with your own hands.
I think that's I think it's a fair assessment. The question is what comes next, and maybe you trade one colonial power for another, much less sentimental and forgiving colonial power. I mean, is the BRICS, for example, in danger of being?
Damn, dude. Does he? It's kind of wild that a guy who has spent every waking moment shitting on China has to sit there and eat the Chinese dick too. Not only is he eating Russian dick, but he has to sit there and also eat Chinese dick. Is that not a bridge too far for you, Tucker? God damn. All kinds of dick eating going on here. Nice, dude.
Being completely dominated by the Chinese economy, in a way that's not good for their sovereignty. Do you worry about that?
It's also funny because he's like talking about anti-colonialism and shit when talking about China. Yeah, end BRICS colonialism. Oh, BRICS. I love that. Yeah.
Well, we have heard those boogeyman stories before. It is a boogeyman story. We're neighbors with China. You cannot choose neighbors just as you cannot choose close relatives. We share a border of 1,000 kilometers with them. This is number one. Second, we have a centuries-long history of coexistence. We're used to it. Third, China's foreign policy philosophy is not aggressive. Its idea is to always look for compromise, and we can see that. The next point is as follows. We are always told the same boogeyman story, and here it goes again. Through an euphemistic form, but it is still the same boogeyman story. The cooperation with China keeps increasing. The pace at which China's cooperation with Europe is growing is higher and greater than that of the growth of Chinese-Russian cooperation. Ask Europeans, aren't they afraid?
No, BRICS bros come from the same place of just like genuinely failing to understand how the global economy operates. Whether it's like a right-wing guy who's like, oh man, de-dollarization, brother, BRICS is happening. And same for, are you having a seizure? No, Kaya is, I have a chew toy in my hand and Kaya's pulling on it. And the same thing goes for like leftists who also fantasize about this like weird allegiance between fucking fucking Brazil, Russia, India, China, and then South Africa, which was just included specifically so that it makes more sense. Like it's easier to say instead of brick.
Might be, I don't know. But they are still trying to access China's market at all costs, especially now that they are facing economic problems. Chinese businesses are also exploring the European market.
Or was it Saudi Arabia? Sorry.
Do Chinese businesses
no,
have
the
small
S is
presence in the
South
United
Africa.
States? Yes, the political
Originally.
decisions are such that they are trying to limit their cooperation with China. It is to your own detriment, Mr. Tucker, that you are limiting cooperation with China. You are hurting yourself. It is a delicate matter, and there are no silver bullet solutions. Just
Damn! He's like, yo, eat this Chinese dick. Eat the Chinese dick right now. Go ahead. Say you love China. Say you love China. He's got him in an arm bar going, come on. Come on. Say it, bitch. Get the fucking polonium dart. Get the polonium dart. Say you like China right now.
as it is with the dollar.
It's like weird because I obviously I fucking hate Vladimir Putin. However, I also really hate Tucker Carlson. So like, and Tucker Carlson is so bitch made here. Like he is being made to be a bitch. Okay. In this interview, he has to like sit there. He has to sit there and straight up just do whatever the fuck Vladimir Putin tells him. Okay, you're the cock watching, goddamn. All I'm saying is, oh, look at it. She got height. She got hops. Come on, get it. Oh. 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 Anyway, look at his pained expression. Yeah, he's like, bro, you got to do cooperation with China. Yeah, it's funny because like here's the thing. Here's what I will say. How do you benefit from your rich father, but then LARP as a socialist? I wish I benefited more from my rich father, and LARP as a socialist, straight up. Here's the thing I was gonna say. Hasan viewers right for China? No. The thing I was going to say is this. When not talking about all of the very obvious faults and all of the very obvious failures and all the violent suppression, authoritarianism, corruption, of course, the invasion of Ukraine, like all the bad shit, when the conversation simply surrounds like American action and how bad it is for the world, or like normal allegiances, things of that nature, like or countries aligning with one another. Basically, in that circumstance, like he comes across very normal, like a coherent dude. But of course, when you allow Putin to steer the fucking interview in that direction, which is what Tucker is doing here. I fell for some tweet that was old. Biden isn't running for presidency. That's so funny. Like, so you say you would not stream if you had that much money, so you're only in it for the money? Yes, dude. Yes, you got it. You got it. You caught me. That's what I meant. Oh my God. Oh my God. Why are you holding a yellow cock ring? You think that's it's very nice of you to say. People need to stop doing really lazy top of the hour ad break debates like that one chatter, because at the top of the hour, you just got to let it happen. Okay? You just got to let it happen. At the top of the hour, there's a cock of the hour. Okay? And if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free. Now, obviously, because I'm an oligarch, I don't see any of the ads, because I've paid for all the Twitch streams that I watch as the son of an oligarch and an oligarch myself. Hopefully, maybe you'll get lucky by another oligarch who'll give you a sub, but here's the 3-minute ad break now.
So, before introducing any illegitimate sanctions, illegitimate in terms of the Charter of the United Nations, one should think very carefully. For decision makers, this appears to be a problem.
I think the better way to answer that would be, so what if, even if I did have a rich father, even if that were the case, does that mean I can't be a socialist now? I'm disqualified? Yeah, I know. It's like so dumb to be like, huh, dude, imagine you come from a rich family and you're a socialist. What a fucking meme. It's like, okay, what do you want me to do? Fucking, do you want to crawl under my boots? Is that what you want? Let's say I am a fucking oligarch, okay? Let's say I am an oligarch. Let's say I'm a neo-Ottomanist oligarch, secretly. Thank you, King Henry the Fourth, for the 50 get the subs. It's like, what's the expectation that you think like you should grovel and beg for my forgiveness as I tell you about how like this structure is actually perfectly good and valid? It's so strange. It's such a weird thing to just fucking constantly harp on, and it makes no sense. You're not addressing anything that I'm saying, and you're simply trying to like bait hypocrisy where no such hypocrisy exists. Right? It's a weird surf-brained ass approach to just be like, wow, dude, fucking guy, he's rich, and he thinks the situation, the organization, the economic organization we exist under is kind of fucked up. It makes no sense. It makes no goddamn sense. Okay? You want me to basically be like an Andrew Tate style person when you say that. If my finances have changed dramatically over the course of the past 10 years. My positions, on the other hand, have not. Why is it that you want me to change with my finances and like start advocating for my best interest, I guess, or what you suspect is my best interest? It also doesn't really make sense as far as like what my goals are. Like they think I'm doing this to make money. It's like, what? You think I want to play on expert difficulty as an oligarch? Is that why? You think I'm like, it's the same energy as people being like, Hasan, you're secretly racist. It's like, yeah, dude. That's why I dedicate a whole lot of time to anti-racist propaganda so I can make it extra hard for all the people around me that'll constantly catch me in my moments where I am being racist. I like it. You know? It was a left of center take. And you should play the Mark Cuban clip. And I hate Mark Cuban, but he was definitely like, it's luck, I should pay taxes. Yeah. Yeah. Classic famous son of an oligarch, donating hundreds of thousands of dollars to strike funds and unions, actively promoting unionization. If this shit was a grift, I could grift way better on this side of the political equation, okay? On this side of the spectrum, I'd be grifting up a fucking storm. You know? That's it.
So you said a moment ago that the world would be a lot better if it weren't broken into competing alliances, if there was cooperation globally. One of the reasons you don't have that is because the current American administration is dead set against you. Do you think if there were a new administration after Joe Biden that you would be able to reestablish communication with the US government? Or does it not matter who the president is?
I will tell you, but let me finish the previous thought. We, together with my colleague and friend, President Xi Jinping, set a goal to reach $200 billion of mutual trade with China this year. We have exceeded this level. According to our figures, our bilateral trade with China totals already $230 billion, and the Chinese statistics says it is $240 billion. One more important thing. Our trade is well balanced, mutually complementary in high-tech, energy, scientific research and development. It is very balanced. As for BRICS, where Russia took over the presidency this year, the BRICS countries are, by and large, developing very rapidly. Look, if memory serves me right, back in 1992, the share of the G7 countries in the world economy amounted to 47%, whereas in 2022 it was down to, I think, a little over 30%. The BRICS countries accounted for only 16% in 1992, but now their share is greater than that of the G7. It has nothing to do with the events in Ukraine. This is due to the trends of global development and world economy, as I mentioned just now. And this is inevitable. This will keep happening. It is like the rise of the sun. You cannot prevent the sun from rising. You have to adapt to it. How do the United States adapt? With the help of force, sanctions, pressure, bombings, and use of armed forces. This is about self-conceit.
I usually skip this part. When do they get to the sex? Brother, if you don't recognize that this has been a 1 hour and 26 minutes of straight fucking, I don't know what to tell you. Vladimir Putin has been fucking Tucker Carlson, okay? Straight up. Sexual intercourse, baby. It's already happening.
Your political establishment does not understand that the world is changing under objective circumstances. And in order to preserve your level, even if someone aspires, pardon me, to the level of dominance, you have to make the...
For people saying, well, Tucker Carlson seems really good at this, it's because, one, he's literally had multiple decades of experience at doing this in particular. And two, while he is a piece of shit personally, so is America. So he has a shit ton to talk about with respect to what America's involvement in the world is. So he could just sit there and constantly chirp about America all day, every day, and kind of still be in the right, even though he himself is engaging in a shit ton of America-style activities. That's the problem. So in situations like this, you have one of two options. You just immediately watch this and you get and you, I guess, figure out where your perspective is. And you go, okay, you know what? I've realized that, like, well, fuck Tucker Carlson. Everything he's saying is wrong because he's a bad guy. So he must be also wrong on a lot of the stuff that he's saying with respect to America. Okay. And I think a lot of liberals do that. They see this and they go, oh, he's talking to Tucker Carlson. They're in agreement. I hate all these guys. I hate Putin. And so I guess I'm pro-America. Like, I agree with the things that America's doing because Putin is saying that they're bad.
Right decisions in a competent and timely manner. Such brutal actions, including with regard to Russia and, say, other countries, are counterproductive. This is an obvious fact. It has already become evident. You just asked me if another leader comes and changes something. It is not about the leader. It is not about the personality of a particular person. I had a very good relationship with, say, Bush. I know that in the United States, he was portrayed as some kind of a country boy who does not understand much. I assure you that this is not the case. I think he made a lot of mistakes with regard to Russia, too. I told you about 2008 and the decision in Bucharest to open the NATO's doors for Ukraine and so on. That happened during his presidency. He actually exercised pressure on the Europeans. But in general, on a personal human level, I had a very good relationship with him. He was no worse than any other American or Russian or European politician. I assure you, he understood what he was doing as well as others. I had such personal relationship with Trump as well. It is not about the personality of the leader, it is about the elite's mindset. If the idea of domination at any cost, based also on forceful actions, dominates the American society, nothing will change. It will only get worse. But if, in the end, one comes to the awareness that the world has been changing due to the objective circumstances, and that one should be able to adapt to them in time, using the advantages that the U.S. still has.
He hated Obama for some reason. Brother, he does not like Democrats. I mean, I think the last Democrat that he was he said like remotely positive things about was Bill Clinton. And even then he was like, he was still like, he's not, I mean, dude, he's a fucking right-wing hyper-nationalist. That's it. He literally, well, one, he's talking to Tucker Carlson. So of course he's gonna say like nice he's gonna say nice things about Republicans because he wants his Tucker Carlson's Republican audience to like him. No, I don't think he's just playing to the audience. I think he does think that he probably vibes better with the likes of George Bush and Trump. Democrats have like this. Democrats are just as reactionary when it comes to foreign policy as the Republicans are, but they don't have that like cowboy gunslinger style. They have this like elitist approach to right-wing foreign policy where they're like, we're doing this and we're doing it for you. It's actually a good thing that we're invading whatever country we're invading type shit. Maybe that's annoying. I don't know.
Today, then perhaps something may
Very
change.
snobby.
Look, China's economy has become the first economy in the world in purchasing power parity. In terms of volume, it overtook the US a long time ago. The USA comes second, then India, 1.5 billion people, and then Japan, with Russia in the 5th place. Russia was the first economy in Europe last year, despite all the sanctions and restrictions. Is it normal from your point of view? Sanctions, restrictions, impossibility of payments in dollars, being cut off from SWIFT services, sanctions against our ships carrying oil, sanctions against airplanes, sanctions in everything, everywhere. The largest number of sanctions in the world which are applied against Russia. And we have become Europe's first economy during this time. The tools that US uses don't work. Well, one has to think about what to do. If this realization comes to the ruling elites, then yes, then the first person of the state will act in anticipation of what the voters and the people who make decisions at various levels expect from this person. Then maybe something will change.
But you're describing two different systems. You say that the leader acts in the interest of the voters, but you also say these decisions are not made by the leader, they're made by the ruling classes. You've run this.
I don't know. America is a complex country. Conservative on one hand, rapidly changing on the other. It's not easy for us to sort it all out. Who makes decisions in the elections? Is it possible to understand this when each state has its own legislation?
Yeah, because he's not a fucking socialist. That's why, bro. He's like, oh, I don't know. Who does?
Each state regulates itself. Someone can be excluded from elections at the state level. It is a two-stage electoral system. It is very difficult for us to understand it. Certainly, there are two parties that are dominant, the Republicans and the Democrats. And within this party system, the centers that make decisions, that prepare decisions. Then, look, why, in my opinion, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, such an erroneous, crude, completely unjustified policy of pressure was pursued against Russia? After all, this is a policy of pressure. NATO expansion, support for the separatists in Caucasus, creation of a missile defense system. These are all elements of pressure. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Then, dragging Ukraine into NATO is all about pressure, pressure, pressure. Why? I think, among other things, because excessive production capacities were created. During the confrontation with the Soviet Union, there were many centers created and specialists on the Soviet Union who could not do anything else. They convinced the political leadership that it is necessary to continue chiseling Russia, to try to break it up, to create on this territory several quasi-state entities, and to subdue them in undivided form, to use their combined potential for the future struggle with China. This is a mistake, including the excessive potential of those who worked for the confrontation with the Soviet Union. It is necessary to get rid of this. There should be new, fresh forces.
The mistake to pressure Russia after the collapse of the Soviet Union, or should we have brought them into the fold? No, he's saying like he would have been a willing participant in Western hegemony if they were brought into the fold after the dissolution of the USSR. That's what he's saying.
People who look into the future and understand what is happening in the world. Look at how Indonesia is developing. 600 million people. Where can we get away from that? Nowhere.
He was the West's darling. What is he blabbering about? I mean, Russia has been presented as a foreign adversary, not immediately after the dissolution of the USSR, but I mean, I would say that it's like in almost perpetuity. Yeah, it's just like we looted it and then booted it, even though Vladimir Putin is like our guy or was our guy. The notion that there was like any kind of the notion that there was any kind of like pro Russia sentiment ever is I don't know. It's just it's always been a very effective. It's always been a very effective way to keep pumping reactionary sentiment and have them as portray them as a foreign adversary.
We just have to assume that Indonesia will enter. It is already in the club of the world's leading economies, no matter who likes it or dislikes it. Yes, we understand and are aware that in the United States, despite all the economic problems, the situation is still normal, with the economy growing decently. The GDP is growing by 2.5%, if I'm not mistaken. But if we want to ensure the future, then we need to change our approach to what is changing. As I already said, the world would nevertheless change, regardless of how the developments in Ukraine end. The world is changing. In the United States themselves, experts are writing that the United States are nonetheless gradually changing their position in the world. It is your experts who write that. I just read them. The only question is how this would happen, painfully and quickly, or gently and gradually. And this is written by people who are not anti-American. They simply follow global development trends. That's it. And in order to assess them and change policies, we need people who think, look forward, can analyze and recommend certain decisions at the level of political leaders.
I just have to ask, you've said clearly that NATO expansion eastward is a violation of the promise you all were made in 1990. It's a threat to your country. Right before you sent troops into Ukraine, the Vice President of the United States went to the Munich Security Conference and encouraged the President of Ukraine to join NATO. Do you think that
Putin and rambling interview barely lets Tucker Carlson get a word in? I think they're just this analysis is probably to like to get a liberal audience that's not going to watch 2 hours to just be like, yeah, this sucked. I mean, it's definitely this like Republicans that do actually watch this are going to be like they're going to get the message. The message being that Vladimir Putin is our guy. Doesn't seem like a bad guy at all. I'm actually shocked that he hasn't like hyped up more of the anti-trans sentiment. You know what I mean? Like he hasn't done more of like the anti-queer stuff. But maybe that's like for the last half or last half hour. I don't know.
that was an effort to provoke you into military action?
I repeat once again, we have repeatedly proposed to seek a solution to the problems that arose in Ukraine after 2014 coup d'etat through peaceful means. But no one listened to us. And moreover, the Ukrainian leaders who were under the complete US control suddenly declared that they would not comply with the Minsk agreements. They disliked everything there and continued military activity in that territory.
шло освоение этой территории натовскими военными структурами под видом различных центров.
And in parallel, that territory was being exploited by NATO military structures under the guise of various personnel training and retraining centers. They essentially began to create bases there, that's all. Ukraine announced that the Russians were a non-titular nationality, while passing the laws that limit the rights of non-titular nationalities in Ukraine. Ukraine, having received all the southeastern territories as a gift from the Russian people, suddenly announced that the Russians were a non-titular nationality in that territory. Is that normal?
So is Putin's goal to combat Russia hysteria in the USA via pandering to conservatives for what purpose? One, always to destabilize, and two, I think he recognizes that he's never going to get the liberals to fucking stop funding Ukraine, but he can definitely get a bunch of like Republicans with isolationist policies that also hate the Brandon agenda anyway. They hate the Brandon regime, that associate like actions in Ukraine with Joe Brandon. He can get those guys to just be like anti-funding Ukraine. It's actually pretty interesting as far as like what his tactics are. It's also an election year too, so that's the other reason.
Прекратить.
All this put together led to the decision to end the war that neo-Nazis started in Ukraine in 2014.
Do you think Zelensky has the freedom to negotiate a settlement to this conflict?
I don't know the details, of course, it's difficult for me to judge. But I believe he has, in any case, he used to have. His father fought against the fascists, Nazis, during World War II. I once talked to him about this. I said, Volodya, what are you doing? Why are you supporting neo-Nazis in Ukraine today, while your father fought against fascism? He was a frontline soldier. I will not tell you what he answered. This is a separate topic, and I think it's incorrect for me to do so. But as to the freedom of choice, why not? He came to power on the expectations of Ukrainian people that he would lead Ukraine to peace. He talked about this. It was thanks to this that he won the elections overwhelmingly. But then, when he came to power, in my opinion, he realized two things. Firstly, it is better not to clash with neo-Nazis and nationalists, because they are aggressive and very active. You can expect anything from them. And secondly, the US-led West supports them and will always support those who antagonize with Russia. It is beneficial and safe. So he took the relevant position despite promising his people to end the war in Ukraine. He deceived his voters.
But do you think at this point, as of February 2024, he has the latitude, the freedom to speak with you or your government directly about putting an end to this, which clearly isn't helping his country or the world? Can he do that, do you think?
Ну, а почему нет? Он же
Why
считается
not?
главой государства.
He considers himself head of
Мы
state.
считаем в
He
России,
won
что
the
всё, что
elections.
произошло после 2014
Although we believe in
года,
Russia that the coup d'etat is the primary
власти
source of
является
power for
несправедливым.
everything
И в
that
этом
happened
смысле
after
Россия является
2014.
ущербным.
And in this
Но,
sense, even
считается
today,
президентом,
government is
в
flawed.
этом качестве его
But he
признают.
considers himself the
Соединенные Штаты,
president, and he
Европа,
is recognized by the United States, all of Europe, and practically the rest of the world in such a capacity. Why not? He
Договорились,
can.
он же знал об этом. Более
We
того,
negotiated with
руководитель
Ukraine in
переговорной
Istanbul.
группы
We agreed.
Арахамия,
He was
по-моему,
aware of
он,
this.
до сих пор
Moreover,
возглавляет,
the
фракцию,
negotiation group leader, Mr.
правящей
Arahamia
партии,
is his last name,
правящей партии.
I believe still
Как
heads the
президент
faction of the ruling
в
party,
Раде, он же
the party of the
возглавляет
president in the Rada.
президента в Раде, в
He still heads the
парламенте.
presidential faction in the Rada, the
Он даже
country's
поставил свою
parliament.
подпись
He still sits there.
на этом документе.
He even put his preliminary signature on the
Потом он
document
же
I am
публично
telling
на
you
весь мир заявил,
about.
«Мы были
But then
готовы
he
подписать
publicly stated to the
приехал
whole
господин
world,
Джонсон,
we were ready to sign this
премьер-министр
document,
Великобритании,
but Mr.
отговорил
Johnson,
нас об этом,
then the Prime
и
Minister
сказал,
of
что
Great
лучше
Britain,
воевать с Россией,
came and
а не
dissuaded us
сразу
from
для
doing
того,
this,
чтобы
saying it was better to fight Russia. They would get
So here's a question about this. I know that like I don't trust Vladimir Putin, obviously, but this is what I have seen. This is what I read as well. And I want to hear the remaining 5 pro-Ukrainian guys in here that are probably here as haters to explain to me what is wrong about this position. Like, because I've heard conflicting information, people saying like, no, it wasn't Boris Johnson that like fucked up the talks at all. But then they also simultaneously say, well, why? How could you trust Putin on his word that he would maintain the conditions of the 15-point plan in Istanbul or in Turkey? And no, don't just say it's not true. I want to know, like, there's more. There's got to be more to it. Because if it's just that, like, how can you trust? Well, then why the fuck did they go to the table to begin with? Like, it's so dumb. It's like when Israel says we can't trust a fucking ceasefire with Hamas. Okay. It was widely reported here in the UK that Johnson was the one who scrupered the talks. Correct. Definitely trust issue. Not going to invade. More of a show. Mr. Not going to invade. More of a show. Okay. So if it's a trust issue, then that doesn't make sense. Because why the fuck would you go to the table with to negotiate the terms and conditions of a ceasefire with a person that you don't fucking trust? That makes no sense. Why would they do that? Something changed midway through. I don't understand it. I've always assumed wait, hold on. Oh shit. My dude outside and breathe fresh air. You often still have to negotiate with. Well, what? I mean, what's the other option? You often still have to negotiate with those you don't trust. You're just not going to show up. Okay, no, I don't think anyone is making a good argument here. At all. It doesn't make any sense. Boris is a chronic liar, not an easy person to respect in any quarter. Huh. It makes, when I look at it, it makes sense to be like, they're having a conversation. Ukraine is in a relatively decent position to negotiate, a better position than they are now, right? They put these fucking conditions in writing. It's a 15-point plan. It makes sense. There's like decent concessions on either side. Okay. And then the referendums, Hasan, referendums happen? No. Referendums did not happen. As a Russian, this is one of your most infuriating takes. Bojo had nothing to do with that. The referendums happened and the reaction on them was codified at this point. No, the referendums were discussed to have happened 15 years in the future for Crimea. What referendums are you talking about? Why would they attack Kyiv to force a deal and not continue to attack? Shows you the peace deal stories just cope to explain the failure to take the rest of Ukraine. They went to the table. They discussed a 15-point plan. The areas that Russia now has annexed in eastern Ukraine, it had not officially annexed yet. Okay. The 15-point plan was pretty smart, politically expedient, pretty smart, in my opinion, from Zelensky's perspective, who was dealing with obviously internal pressure in not conceding. This is not rumor talk. This has been widely reported. Globe heads are coping. No, I know. I know. That's why I'm saying, like, I read a lot of stuff about this negotiation, and it's not like it was Russian propaganda or some shit. This is what I saw, and what I saw was that Boris Johnson's visit basically aligned perfectly with the ceasefire conversation falling apart entirely. The Boris tank the deal is just taking agency from Ukraine to choose their path. Okay, this is what makes me want to fucking video game myself entirely, because there is no autonomy in Ukraine, okay? If Ukrainian agency was a factor in this fucking conversation, then America would be wiping out every Russian position right now with F-16s or F-35s or whatever the fuck they're using. Please stop. If Ukrainian agency mattered in this conversation from the eyes of the Western world and Western leadership, they literally would not. There would be no more Russian invasion at this point. Ukraine would be in NATO. Like, I don't know why people always bring this up and say, like, oh, it's like, you think any Western power gives a fuck about Ukrainian agency? What the fuck are we talking about? I'm sorry, guys. Like, this is laughable. Like, people legitimately still push this position over and over again about. People still legitimately push this position over and over again that, like, America's involvement in Ukraine is actually a moral one. America is on the right side of this conflict. but America's interests are not a fucking moral one in Ukraine. They have openly mentioned this. They keep saying it over and over again. It seems so naive to just like refuse to hear what the American politicians have openly said. This is not my analysis. This was my analysis originally. Okay. My analysis originally was, I think America is doing this as a proxy war. But now I don't have to say that as speculation because I could just point to Elizabeth Warren or Chris Coons or Lindsey Graham or numerous other Republican and Democratic Party foreign policy apparatus members very clearly defining that it is a great return on investment for 5% of our military budget. We've been able to take out 50% of our foreign adversaries' military without a single U.S. active duty service member lost in the process. I'd say that's a really good bargain. There's also a secondary line of communication here where they've also talked about how this is all great for our military industrial complex. These are our arms deals. These are American manufacturers that are making these weapons and getting the money. 50%, what the fuck are you getting this from? Dog, it's just the Lindsey Graham quote. I'm not saying that they actually destroyed 50% of the Russian military. I'm simply saying that's what Lindsey Graham directly said. When you hear stuff like that, you have to realize that while America is technically on the right side of a conflict, siding with those who are invaded versus the invaders, right? America in Israel, Palestine, wrong side of the conflict. That much is very obvious. Okay? Israel is engaging in a genocidal campaign against Palestinians. America is firmly on the side of Israel on that situation, on that side of the conflict. Okay? America is firmly on the side of Ukraine in the Russian invasion of Ukraine. That is the right side. Ukrainians are correct in wanting to defend their country. Russians, or the Russian government, or Vladimir Putin, okay, specifically, is on the wrong side. Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's not a just cause. You don't think Ukraine wants to defend itself and we shouldn't help because Russia is our adversary? What? No, you're putting words in my mouth. I'm saying that while America is technically aligned on the right side of this conflict since the invasion, okay, their interest and their motivation is not for honest reasons. How do you justify sides right or wrong? Easy. The invading force is in the wrong. It's that simple. There are obviously differences throughout history. Like America going into Europe to defeat Nazis is the right thing to do. But yes, Russia is the oppressor. Russia is the aggressor. Russia is in the wrong. My point is, if you want the NATO simps reasoning, their story is that this was just a fake negotiation on the part of Russia to plan the post-Kyiv failure. Oh. Okay. I guess that's maybe a more reasonable argument. I don't fucking know. People have basically said that this is false. And it made me feel, and these are like people who pay way closer attention. People who pay way closer attention to Ukraine than me, right? I'm not a particularly smart guy, okay? But this, to me, Boris Johnson casting doubt on the possibility of a negotiated peace in Ukraine and the Ukrainian peace talks like falling apart is very different than people being like, well, how can you trust the Russians on a negotiated condition of like surrender? Those are two separate things. If you don't trust the Russians, you just don't fucking go to the table to do peace talks with them anyway. Okay? But you should engage in an honest effort to do a ceasefire. And if it doesn't work out, then you're back to square one. And square one is you blowing shit up anyway. Putin repeats nonsense claim Boris Johnson's scrupured efforts to end Ukraine invasion. You just said that, but I feel like they sold the Ukrainians a lie that they were going to get unconditional and permanent support from the Western world. Oh, this is the one. Okay. The Russian president said via translator a huge document had been prepared and approved by the head of the Ukrainian delegation before the UK prime minister had stepped in and dissuaded Ukraine. Vladimir Putin has repeated a claim that Boris Johnson scrupured negotiations for a peace settlement. During a highly anticipated sit-down interview, he put his signature and then himself. We were ready to sign it, and the war would have been over long ago. However, Prime Minister Johnson came to talk us out of it, and we missed that chance. In an interview with the Times in January, Mr. Johnson strongly denied the claims, which have been previously aired by Moscow, describing them as total nonsense and Russian propaganda. Okay, I don't trust Boris Johnson either, though. If this is just Mr. Johnson's word, then why the fuck would I trust Boris Johnson? He's an absolute baboon. Mr. Johnson asserted that during a conversation with Mr. Zelensky following the peace talks in Istanbul, he had expressed concerns about the nature of the potential agreement, but assured him the UK's unwavering support for Ukraine. He added that no peace proposal or peace agreement were possible in February and March 2022. Russia entered Ukraine solely for the sake of seizing territories, killing civilians, and overthrowing a democratic government. The former prime minister's rebuttal came following statements made by David Arahamia, the leader of the Servant of the People Party faction in Verkhovna Rada, and the head of the Ukrainian delegation in talks with Russia in November 2023. I remember this. This came out as well. Mr. Arahamia, cited by a previous visit by Mr. Johnson to Kyiv as forming part of the decision not to negotiate with Moscow in 2022. Mr. Johnson had allegedly said that Ukraine shouldn't sign anything with them at all, and let's just fight. Speaking of the proposed negotiations, Mr. Putin continued, we have never refused, and the fact that they obeyed the demand of the persuasion of Mr. Johnson, the former Prime Minister of Great Britain, seems ridiculous and very sad to me. Because, as Mr. Arahamia put it, we could have stopped these hostilities with a war a year and a half ago already. But the British persuaded us, and we refused. Where's Mr. Johnson now? And the war continues. It's like, bitch, you're saying that, but you're the one who's continuing the war, for the record. Asked where he thought Mr. Johnson was, Mr. Putin laughed, replying, hell knows, I don't understand it myself. Conspiracy theories about Mr. Johnson's potential involvement in peace negotiations between two nations have been previously bandied. Okay, this article sucks dick, dude. This article sucks dick. Do you know why this article sucks dick? Because it literally openly admits that Boris Johnson did very publicly say, don't sign anything. It shows a Ukrainian head of the delegation. Why didn't they go to the fucking guy himself and be like, did Boris Johnson tell you this? What the fuck? Anyway, according to the Guardian article I sent you, Boris apparently said that because Zelensky had maximalist positions. Oh. Yeah, he said, I really don't see how the Ukrainians can easily sit down and come to some kind of accommodation. How can he negotiate with a crocodile when he's got your legs in his jaws? NATO would keep going with the strategy of supplying Ukraine with the weapons to defend itself. He suggested President Zelensky had what he called a pretty maximalist position of wanting to see Russian troops expelled from their current positions in Donetsk and Luhansk, adding, on Crimea, they are not so maximalist. Johnson played down the prospects that he could persuade Modi to toughen India's stance on Ukraine. That the rest of it is Modi. Okay, this still doesn't mean that he didn't dissuade the Ukrainian envoy, or at least like feed them a lie. Because here's the thing. Can you use a British accent when talking about Boris? No, because I'm at 9 hours and I have a headache. And I'm losing it a little bit. The thing that frustrates me about this is the same position that I've brought forward time and time again. In the simplest terms, you have to always give peace a chance. Okay? All matter of war end in treaties. Okay? All matter of war end in treaties. That's how it ends, always. So when people say, "Oh, dude, you can't do fucking treaties with these guys. They're fucking awful. They're dogs." It's like, okay, let's say you do try to engage in a ceasefire. Okay? Let's say you try to engage in a ceasefire. Fine, great, dandy, love it. And let's say Russia doesn't follow through on the conditions of a ceasefire. Right? They keep shelling. Okay. Then what the fuck happens? You're back to square one. You were already violent before the ceasefire. You were already withstanding violence before the ceasefire. And you just go back to square one and you continue withstanding violence after the ceasefire is violated. This is what I mean. This is what is very frustrating. But then both sides deepen even more. What do you mean deepen even more? Anyway. Motherfuckers would say this makes you look weak. Yeah, you know what makes you look weak? When the manpower you have runs out and the Western world slowly but surely starts withdrawing support because they have a shiny new genocide that they actually care about. So they no longer care about your defense because they never cared about your defense at all. They cared about your defense as far as you could hurt Russia. Okay? They cared about your defense as far as they could as they could use your people to fight back against a foreign fucking adversary. Anyway, I can't finish this interview. I'm so fucking tired. And I have a headache. No. Guys, it's 9 hours. I'm at 9 hours right now. I don't think I'll be able to play the glorious. I'm not going to be able to defend the glorious Azerbaijan borders today. I know everybody was very excited for it, but I do have not one but two dogs that I need to take care of here. And some other shit too. God damn it. Fine, Mr. Grumpy Pants. Mr. Grumpy Pants, dude, this is like a full day we did of politics. It's just like, I'm tired, man. We did 9 hours of like nonstop maximum politics. It's not my fault though. It's because the Tucker Carlson interview dropped and it was kind of a crazy one. And I didn't realize it was going to be 2 fucking hours long. God damn it. And we didn't even get to finish it. But we will do Border Patrol tomorrow. Okay. It was a fat day. Big day. Lots of stuff that we talked about. God damn. Hopefully it was informative for you guys. You know? And that is all I got for today. But tomorrow is another day. Putin calls Tucker CIA. I know, I talked about that. I saw it. Fucking awesome. Anyway, love you guys. Peace. And bye-bye.
Sunny Los Angeles, California, says Hasan. The starlock to the starlock to the topic just begun. There he is again, Hasan is streaming. Hasan is streaming. There he is again. Hasan is streaming. Hasan is streaming. Reviewing the P.O. box, Uncle Uyghur's face. Sudden discord agitprop, great names take embrace. Tiny Bernie Sanders, LGBTQ Air Force. The whole left at your fingertips, Ane at your door. H3 crowded debate, the Young Turks online show. 3 full fucking years of this, plenty more to go. 90-day fiance talks of champagne bourgeoisie. A Trump rally live reaction, a mass riot at DC. There he is again, Hasan is streaming. Hasan is streaming. There he is again, Hasan is streaming. Hasan is streaming. Reading live stream fair comments, Austin show chat advice. And all the ways the right-wing pipeline can suck you in online. JCS React Lord frame gets broken, cover blown. A full-blown mass pandemic monster streaming at your home. Total radicalization coming out to find. The system you were taught to trust in was broken the whole time. All these daily streams, whether big or whether small, have helped me and so many find the meaning through it all. There he is again, Hasan is streaming. Hasan is streaming. There he is again, Hasan is streaming. Hasan is streaming.